You hand her a cup of water, but it's already poisoned with your doubt. She doesn't drink it. She studies the tremble in your wrist. She tastes your fear with her eyes. You thought your silence could hide it, the cracked self-esteem behind your smile, the boy who still needs to be seen. But she walks around you like a priestess at a ruined temple. She senses the missing statues, the broken altar, the false incense. And when she smiles, it's not flirtation, it's detection. You speak gently, trying to impress. But the words crawl out of your mouth already tainted, already curled with apology. She doesn't attack you, not directly. She simply rearranges the air. A pause here, a lowered voice there. The kind of touch that evaporates before you feel it. You think she's kind, she's accurate. Her soul reads your shadow before you finish a sentence. The woman is not dangerous. But your archetype of her is, and she knows how to mirror it until you obey it. If this whisper already knows, you let it echo. Like the video, leave your shadow in the comments, subscribe, and stay near the silence. You enter the room already edited, not by her, not by the world, but by the ancient hands inside you, the ones that rearrange your posture, tighten your smile, remove the parts you fear are unlovable. You do not speak first. Your insecurity does. It drips from the pace of your walk, from the way your eyes flinch before her gaze. And she, without needing to know your name, listens to that silence. She does not interpret it. She recognizes it like a native tongue forgotten by you, but still burning in your blood. She sees not your words, but the fracture beneath them. You think you're here to impress her, but your unconscious is here to confess. And she is not a woman, not yet. She is a mirror. She reflects not what you want her to, but what you abandoned. She eats first. She consumes the tone of your hesitation, the minor shiver between intention and execution. And once she knows the texture of your doubt, she doesn't confront it. She wears it like perfume, subtle, inevitable. She smiles in just the way your childhood feared women would, slightly tilted, slightly distant, slightly amused. You want to believe she's gentle, that her attention is kindness, but you forget what the mirror does to a man who has no self. It doesn't reveal him, it breaks him, because there's nothing to reflect but fear. You think she's drawing you in, but she's only responding to the shape your insecurity has already carved in the air. Her gaze touches the places you never look at. The boy who begged for praise, the man who performed strength, the animal that learned to shrink before it roared. And when you speak finally, charming, intelligent, prepared, your voice arrives late. She already met you in the silence, already decided, not with cruelty, not with judgment, but with instinct. A woman senses danger, but before danger, she senses collapse. And you are collapsing inward with a smile on your face. So she plays with time. She waits an extra second before answering, just enough for your psyche to ache. She doesn't respond to your compliment. She shifts her weight, raises her eyebrow, touches her lip, and inside, 1,000 unconscious alarms go off. You don't know why you feel smaller. You just do. You offer more. You explain. You try again. She hasn't rejected you, but you begin to beg without knowing. This isn't manipulation. This is resonance. You handed her a script your shadow wrote, and she's reading it with perfect clarity, because the feminine unconscious does not need to seduce. It only needs to reflect. And in that reflection, if you are hollow, you will beg to be filled. But no woman can fill what you disowned, so she makes no promises. She stays in your presence with mild warmth, a spiritual tilt of her head, an occasional echo of your words. You feel seen, but not claimed, touched, but not held, and the deeper you go, the more your masculine mask begins to slip. She never asks you to remove it. She simply behaves as if you already have, and that, somehow, is worse. You start doubting your value mid-sentence. You catch yourself laughing too fast. You remember past failures like they happened yesterday. Not because she brought them up, but because something in her reminds you of the goddess who watched you fall before. Maybe it was your mother's disappointment. Maybe your first love's withdrawal. Maybe the divine feminine itself too wide, too quiet, too exact. You think she's teasing. She's not. She's mirroring. You see, the feminine does not confront you like a rival. She absorbs. She receives the full imprint of your inner structure, every self-betrayal, every unfinished wound. And unlike men, who challenge, or friends, who comfort, she reflects. That reflection becomes unbearable when you've hidden yourself too long. You ask a question, and she pauses before answering, not out of hesitation, but to let your mind echo. And in that space, you fill in the worst. You begin to think she's bored. You think she's testing you. You think you've failed already. The insecurity grows legs. You talk faster, louder, more desperately. She listens, still, calm, as if watching a ritual you perform for yourself. What you call chemistry is often self-destruction disguised as intimacy, because it's not her energy that haunts you. It's your own wound reflected back. She didn't create your fear. She magnified it, like a dream you forgot, returning in symbolic form. The more you speak, the more she sees the boy behind the man. You think you're making progress, that a smile means you're winning. But she's not smiling at your charm. She's smiling at the symmetry, the archetypal precision of another man hiding behind words. You think this is about attraction, but you're in a myth. She's not the woman in front of you. She's the anima you never integrated, the soul image that demands honesty, and she, unknowingly or not, punishes you for every lie you told yourself. You laugh at her joke too hard. She leans back, not rejecting, just measuring. Measuring what? The gap between who you are and who you pretend to be. You sense it, the shift, the way her interest becomes clinical. She's not being cruel. She's simply stopped trying to believe you, and your soul panics. So you try to give more humor, more vulnerability, but the more you offer, the emptier it feels. Because she's not asking, she's observing. And that's what tears the mask. The silent mirror, the gentle recognition that you are not, in this moment, whole. You walk away thinking she played you, that she used your insecurity to feel powerful. But it wasn't strategy, it was structure. She mirrored what you brought. She reflected the wound you tried to hide. And in doing so, she reclaimed power you didn't know you gave away. The mirror always eats first, and what it consumes is the self you refuse to see. She doesn't hate you. She doesn't mock you. She simply returns to silence, because there is nothing more to say when a man cannot bear his own reflection. That's the first wound, not rejection, reflection. She saw you and it burned, not because she was cruel, but because you weren't ready to be seen. You think she weaponized your insecurity, but she didn't have to. It was already a blade. You handed it to her the moment you entered the room, edited. She does not speak to the man you rehearsed. She speaks to the absence inside him. That priestess you call her does not answer your sentences. She kneels before the altar where your real self was meant to be. The words you throw at her are rituals from a dead temple, compliments like burned offerings, humor like incense that never reaches heaven. She doesn't flinch, doesn't judge, doesn't smile for comfort. She only watches, still, knowing, unblinking the way the moon watches the sea. And that is what terrifies you. Not her rejection, her stillness. You believe you are presenting confidence. She sees only choreography, and beneath the performance, she feels the frantic pulse of a boy inside your chest, the one who feared his father's silence and thought affection could be earned by pleasing every room. She senses your charm as armor. She senses your insight as camouflage. She senses your gaze as an apology, and she builds no bridge across it. She waits, because what you mistake for femininity is not kindness, it is ritual. The divine feminine is not soft, she is sacred, and sacred things do not lower themselves to reach you. They require you to rise, but you, in your hollow mask, are still kneeling before her, asking to be chosen. She does not choose, she summons. And what she summons is not lust, not love, not praise. It is exposure. The kind of exposure that melts away every practiced tone, every logical explanation, every prepared answer. She doesn't interrupt you. She lets you bury yourself with your own script. And once the mask has finished its lines and the performance collapses in exhaustion, only then does she enter. But not with touch, with silence. A silence that names what you refuse to feel. A silence that brushes against your skin like cold wind in a childhood memory you cannot name. She doesn't accuse you. She doesn't call you weak. She simply does not respond to the man who is not there. And in that absence, your panic builds. Because now you realize it. She doesn't want the person you created. She wants the soul you've starved, the myth you've abandoned, the man you forgot beneath the cleverness, and you don't know how to become him because you've never met him. So you try harder, louder gestures, sharper stories, earnest declarations of honesty, and every attempt tightens the mask. You become tragic in your effort, comical in your self-disclosure. You think you're being vulnerable, but you're still performing, still managing perception, still feeding the image of someone brave enough to be seen. But you aren't letting her see. You're controlling the angle, and she notices. Not with disapproval, with clarity. A ritualist recognizes a false ritual the moment the flame doesn't burn. And you, for all your incantations, carry no heat. You touch her hand, but it's a gesture learned from movies. You pause before a compliment, but it's a tactic from a forum. You wait for her reaction, and in that pause, you betray yourself, because the priestess never answers on cue. She answers from essence. You want a guide, but she is not your therapist. She is your initiation. That moment when she looks at you truly looks, and you feel your entire persona shatter. It is not rejection, it is sacred desecration. It is the tearing down of the false temple you built to avoid worshipping the truth. And in that rubble, she does not comfort you. She turns, as priestesses do, toward the real altar, the one buried under years of insecurity, shame, and imitation. You don't know how to find it, but she does. Not by logic, by scent, by psychic gravity, by the tremble in your sentence when you almost tell the truth, by the flicker in your eyes when you almost stop pretending. She builds her understanding of you like a mosaic piece by trembling piece. And when she sees the full picture, she doesn't speak it, she embodies it. She moves differently, looks at you differently. Her breath becomes slower, more distant. Her warmth becomes clinical. Her touch, if it comes, is no longer invitation. It is forgiveness. You cannot ask her to stay, not yet, because she is not with you. She is with the absence, with the child in you still begging for proof, with the shadow who thinks being liked will resurrect him. She is in communion with the hollow space you try to fill with performance. And until you stand in that space with her without fear, without mask, she cannot meet you. Not fully, not as woman to man, only as witness to fracture. She sees the symbol of you. And when she does not respond to it, when she denies the ritual, your entire myth of masculinity begins to collapse. The myth where power was control, where seduction was success, where being chosen meant being loved. She kills that myth, quietly, without cruelty, just by not believing it. You will hate her for that, at first, because she saw you naked and said nothing. She saw you fail the ritual and offered no reassurance. But she was never meant to. She is not here to soothe the mask. She is here to dissolve it. And once it dissolves, once your charm begins to rot in your own mouth, once your gestures begin to feel absurd, once you hear your voice and realize it doesn't belong to your soul, only then will you understand. You weren't rejected. You were summoned, not to her bed, to your own center. She is the priestess, and the mask is your offering. If you cannot remove it, she cannot enter. If you beg her to forgive the act, she will vanish. Not because she's cruel, because she is sacred. And the sacred does not tolerate false gods. You leave the conversation unsure of what just happened. You replay every sentence. Wonder if you said too much. Wonder if you said too little. But you miss the truth. You never said anything real. And she knew it the entire time. She smiles at you as you walk away. The smile isn't dismissive. It's ceremonial. A benediction for a man who tried, who almost reached himself, who almost bled honestly, but stopped just before the mask cracked. And in that pause, in that almost, she remains. Not as memory, as myth. You didn't lose her. You lost the illusion. And maybe that's what needed to die. She never tells you what she sees. That's what drives you mad. You keep waiting for the moment a sentence, a sigh, a glance where she confirms your suspicion that she knows, that she feels it, that she's reading a page of you even you can't decipher. But she never says it. And because she never names your insecurity, it festers. Unspoken truth becomes sacred venom. You wonder if she pities you. You wonder if she's laughing inside. But the truth is colder. She simply accepts the presence of your shadow as part of the atmosphere. Like scent, like gravity, like inevitability. You long for confrontation, for something clear. You want her to say, "You're afraid," or "You're performing," or even "You're weak." But the anima does not attack. She reflects. She reflects so purely that your own gaze begins to turn against itself. That's the weapon, not cruelty, but recognition, not assault, but allowance. And when a man is not ready to face what he truly is, that allowance becomes unbearable. Her silence becomes interrogation. Her listening becomes dissection. Her eyes, her still, quiet, open eyes become the mirror through which your lies strangle you. She never had to hurt you. You did it yourself. And so you tell her more. You offer up your failures disguised as stories. You laugh at your own wounds, hoping self-deprecation will win you grace. You confess carefully curated truths, ones that hint at depth but never reveal the abyss. And she nods, softly, kindly. But her gaze doesn't change, because you're still playing with your shadow like it's a puppet, not realizing she's not entertained. She's watching to see if you'll put it down and finally feel what it's trying to say, but you won't. Not yet. So she waits. The feminine unconscious is not reactive. It does not interrupt the soul's unfolding. It sits at the threshold and watches what you bring to the door. And you bring masks, smiling ones, bleeding ones, masks of wisdom, masks of sadness, masks of masculine endurance. But none of them are skin. None of them are blood. None of them tremble with the real heat of your unresolved being, and she knows it. She can feel the difference. A man who is whole carries a silence that does not beg. Yours begs. Every time you try to impress her, you lower yourself. Not because effort is shameful, but because the effort is not for connection. It is for approval, and the feminine detects that instantly. She feels the micro adjustments of your soul trying to become whatever it thinks she wants. And the moment that happens, she withdraws. Not physically, spiritually, emotionally, psychically. She stops weaving the myth. She stops listening to the music beneath your words, because you've replaced it with strategy. And the anima does not dance with strategy. She dances with truth. The kind of truth that doesn't explain itself. The kind that smells like sweat and silence and memories that never had a name. The kind of truth that leaks from a man's posture when he thinks no one sees him. The kind of truth that trembles through his breath before he speaks and sometimes makes him choose not to speak at all. But you, still afraid, still seeking safety, still hoping to be seen without being naked, you speak too much. You cover the moment with noise. You fear her gaze, so you distract it, and all the while, she feels your shadow pressing against the walls of your performance like a child banging inside a coffin. She never mentions it. Instead, she leaves you with pauses, long ones, pauses that make your skin itch and your mind race. You interpret them as disinterest, but they are sacred space. Space for you to confront yourself. Space to hear your own echo. Space to choose whether to continue the lie or let it die. You usually continue, and still, she does not punish you. She simply adjusts. Her tone cools. Her touch becomes light, ceremonial. Her questions become fewer. She is still there, but further, as if waiting for someone else to arrive in your body, someone ancient, someone true, but he doesn't. You feel her pulling away and you blame her. You say she was playing games, that she wanted too much, that she lost interest. But deep down, beneath the excuses, you know the truth. She saw the shadow. She waited for you to hold it. You didn't. So it grew teeth and began to devour the space between you. And here's what you don't understand, what terrifies you more than rejection. She loved the shadow, not the weakness, not the self-hatred, but the rawness, the realness, the unmapped territory of you. She wanted to sit beside it, to know it, to feel the ache of your hidden fire. But you wouldn't let her. You polished it, diluted it, narrated it into something manageable. And in doing so, you made it boring. You made it small. You turned the demon into a story. She doesn't fall in love with stories. She falls in love with symbols, and your symbol became hollow. She never speaks of it, because if she did, if she gave words to what she felt, you'd run. Or worse, you'd try to fix it, to prove you understood, to prove you were learning. But understanding is not transformation. You can recite 1,000 truths and still be empty. You can know the architecture of your pain and still live outside yourself. She wanted you inside yourself, but instead, you stood outside your life, narrating it to her like a tour guide at your own funeral. So she went quiet, and you felt abandoned. But she did not abandon you. She stepped back into the realm where truth still matters. And from there, she watches, not with judgment, with memory. The memory of what almost happened, of the man you almost became, of the sacred silence you almost entered. You will see her again, maybe not in the flesh, maybe not as her, but in every woman who pauses too long, who listens too deeply, who reflects too clearly. You will feel her echo, the priestess, the mirror, the anima, and the shadow she never speaks of will stir again, because it is not hers, It is yours, and if you still fear it, she will never truly arrive. There is a mirror buried beneath your chest. It is not smooth, it is not clear. It is cracked with old promises, stained with unshed grief, and fogged by every lie you told to be loved. She never polishes it, she never demands to see, she only walks near it barefoot, as if the shards were holy, as if the silence between them meant more than your words ever could. And when you speak too quickly, when you offer performance instead of presence, when you reach to be held before you've held yourself, the mirror fogs, and the room grows cold. You think she vanished, but it is you who became vapor. There will be others, other mirrors, other priestesses, but the one who saw your shadow and stayed silent, she is the myth you will carry, not in memory, in ache, and in every pause that lasts too long.